Hi everybody and welcome to another theory video. This one is going to focus on a topic called price elasticity of supply. Now I've just been watching through my previous video on supply curves, and there is one point that I think I've skipped over a little bit too quickly that I just want to go back to, start looking at price elasticity of supply. Right, now this one is linked to increases in supply and decreases in supply. Now, hopefully what we remember is that when supply moves outwards, it's caused often by a reduction in business costs. So as supply moves outwards at the original price level, firms become more willing and able to produce because there's more scope to make profit in this marketplace. One thing that I skipped over a little bit too quickly though was this bottom point. Supply can move outwards due to a decrease in the price of other goods and services, which could also be produced. Now, all we're saying here is if you're a firm and the ability to make profit in an alternative market has fallen due to lower prices elsewhere, then firms become more willing and able to produce in this market. So supply will move outwards. So, for example, if you're a car manufacturer and price levels are falling in petrol cars, maybe due to lower demand, you become more willing and able to produce electric cars because relatively you can now make more profit from this market than what you could do the previous market that you might have been operating in. When supply moves inwards, it's caused often by an increase in business costs. So it becomes less or more difficult, should I say, to make profit at original price levels than what it was before. The point that I skipped over a little bit too quick, though, was the second to bottom bullet point, an increase in the price of other goods or services. Now, the idea could be if you can now make more profits by supplying a rival good or service, you become less willing and able to produce the existing product at the original price level. So, for example, if there's a growth in the price of, let's say, making t-shirts and you're a textiles manufacturer and you're currently making trousers, you become less willing and able to make trousers at the original price level, with the logic being there's more scope for making profit producing a different good or service entirely. Right, okay, now going back to today's online lesson then, this one is all about the concept of price elasticity of supply. Now hopefully you remember in the previous video we looked at price elasticity of demand, which was measuring the responsiveness of demand to a change in price. And what we saw was that there is a negative relationship between price and demand. As price levels go down, demand will extend. If price levels go up, then demand will contract. But in that topic, what we were looking at was the shape of the demand curve. So whether demand was pretty steep, which would show price inelastic demand, or pretty horizontal, which would show price elastic demand. Right, now when we look at price elasticity of supply, it's a very, very similar concept, but for supply rather than demand. We're looking at the responsiveness of supply to a change in price. So in other words, how much will supply change as price levels change? And again, we've got a formula. So to calculate the PES, or the price elasticity of supply, we would use the percentage change in supply divided by the percentage change in price. Now, what we would expect from this formula would be to receive only positive numbers. And that is because we expect a positive relationship between price and supply. So think about it logically. Assuming ceteris paribus, if price levels increase in a market, firms become more willing and able to produce because there's more scope for making profit. As price levels fall, assuming ceteris paribus, firms will leave the market, so supply will contract due to less scope for making profits at the new lower price levels. Now, what we would expect this time then, that a score between 0 to +1 from the formula would show as price inelastic supply, and that would mean that the percentage change in price is exceeding the percentage change in supply. A score of +1 would show as unitary price elasticity, and what this in effect means is that the percentage change in price will be equal to the percentage change in supply. So the logic here would be if price went up by 20%, supply will also increase by 20%. And then anything from +1 to +infinity would show price elastic supply. So this time supply would be very responsive to a change in price. So the percent change in supply would exceed the percentage change in price. Right, now let's think about what these will look like through diagrams. Now, a bit like with demand, we've got 5 possible scenarios. I'm just giving you the definitions and the formula outcomes for the middle 3: price inelastic supply, unitary, and price elastic supply. We'll start to think about the reasons behind these later on. Now, the first video, the first diagram, should I say, sorry, shows perfectly price inelastic supply. Here, supply is completely unable to respond to changes in price. So we've got what we call a fixed supply. Supply will not change at all as price levels change. So imagine demand increased and the price was to grow, that people are willing and able to pay from £100 to £500. The supply is fixed, it will not change. To give you an idea of a product that might fit this category, could be a football stadium. If ticket prices were £10, there were 90,000 seats in Wembley Stadium. If ticket prices were £100, then again, there's still 90,000 seats in Wembley Stadium. So that supply curve cannot respond at all to a change in market price. The next one shows a price inelastic supply. So what we can see here then is that we've got a very steep supply curve. So as price levels grow, there will be a small extension in supply, but it's not going to be a significant extension in supply. If price levels fell, there would be a contraction in supply, but it would be a very insignificant contraction in supply. So what we're going to say here is the percentage change in price would exceed that percentage change in supply. And we'll think about some factors that might cause this in a couple of slides or so. The next one is a price unitary supply. So this is a normal looking supply curve, if you like, a 45-degree angle supply curve. And all we're showing here is that the percentage change in price will be equal to the percentage change in supply. So if price levels went up by 10%, there'd be a 10% extension in supply. If price levels fell by 30%, there'd be a 30% contraction in supply. Now the next one, the price elastic supply, you can see here a very flat supply curve. So again, as price levels grow, we're going to get an extension in supply. As price levels fall, there'll be a contraction in supply. But this time, supply is responsive to that change in price. So the percent change in supply would exceed that percentage change in price. So the logic would be if price levels were to grow from, let's say, £1 to £1.10, it's a 10% increase in price. That could lead to supply extending by 50%. So 50% divided by 10% will give us a score of price elasticity supply equal to 5. And the next one is a horizontal supply curve. Here, firms are completely responsive to a change in price. Now, what we will genuinely focus on will be these middle 3 diagrams: price inelastic supply, price unitary supply, and then price elastic supply. Right, now you've got here then the 2 outcomes that we genuinely focus on: price inelastic supply and price elastic supply. And you can see hopefully here why these things are either inelastic or elastic. In the first diagram, we have the inelastic supply. So we've got that significant increase in price from P1 to P2, but the market supply has only grown from Q1 to Q2. So the percentage change in price is clearly exceeding that percentage change in supply. In the right-hand side diagram, a small increase in price would lead to a significant extension in supply. So this time, supply is responsive to that change in price. So the percentage change in supply would exceed that percentage change in price. You've got here the 2 extreme examples. So in the first diagram, we've got a perfectly priced inelastic supply. Now I mentioned before that a football stadium could have a perfectly priced inelastic supply. Now we could also argue that the number of fish in the sea has got a perfectly priced inelastic supply. Fish don't respond to market prices, so as price levels increase, the quantity of fish in the sea is fixed. Right, now what will make supply inelastic or elastic? Now think about supply being inelastic in a slightly different way now. So I've put here supply will be priced inelastic, so not able to significantly raise supply when prices increase. When? Now think about this. Imagine there was a huge growth in demand in a market. what you'd expect is that price levels would start to go up. If people become more willing and able to buy, then the market price would start to increase. What was shown with a price inelastic supply is that firms are finding it very difficult to respond to growing prices. So in other words, as price levels and demand increase, they're finding it very difficult to produce more of that particular good or service. Now, here are some of the reasons behind this. The firm could be running at what we call full capacity. So what this means is they are operating on their production possibility frontier already. So that means if they need to produce more output, they've got to recruit more factors of production. Well, the idea will be that will take time. So that means in that short amount of time, you will find it very difficult to increase supply. So for example, if you're a car manufacturer and you're producing 1,000 cars per week and your car factory is only geared up to produce 1,000 cars per week, if you've got a growth in demand and supply, demand and price, you want to produce more, but you haven't got the capacity. You've got to go and expand your factory, you've got to recruit more workers, you might need more capital. Well, that's going to take time, means that you cannot respond, at least in the short run, to that growth in market prices and demand. You want to produce more, but you're not physically able to produce more. Now, it could also be that you've got no stockpiles. Now, stockpiles could be of what we call finished or semi-finished goods. So again, if you're a car manufacturer and you've got a big stockpile, so you've got no stockpiles of finished cars, it means that you've got no cars ready to be sold. So again, a big growth in price and demand. If you've got no stockpiles, the only way you can sell extra cars is to produce extra cars. Well, that will take time to produce the output, get it to the customers, and that will mean again that supply cannot respond to those growing price levels. Next one, expect price increase to only be temporary. Now imagine you're an airline and you've got a certain number of planes that you operate. You've got a certain number of pilots, and your data shows that for the next 6 months there'll be a growing demand and therefore price for your aeroplane flights. Well, in order to respond to that growing demand and price, you might need to hire extra pilots. You might need to put in orders to have more planes. Well, if you only expect that growth in demand and price to exist for a few months, then you might not bother increasing supply. You don't want to be stuck with a load of planes in 6 months' time that nobody wants anymore. So you might just stick with what you've got for fear that the market demand will not be increasing significantly beyond 6 months. Next one, short term. It's a little bit like the first one, really, running at full capacity. If you've got a growth in demand and prices, again, you want to produce more, but in the short run, it takes time to acquire the capital that you need to produce those extra goods and services. Well, if that's the case, in the short run, again, you cannot respond by producing more as price levels increase. Finally, think about a market supply curve. In the short run, it's difficult for firms to enter a marketplace. So there might be growing prices and growing demand in a marketplace, and more firms might want to enter, but it's going to take time for them to obtain the factors of production they need to be successful in that market. So, for example, if you're looking at, let's say, the holiday market, there could be a growing demand and prices for holidays in Tenerife. Well, that means that in theory, more people will build hotels and supply those holidays in Tenerife. Well, those hotels will take time to build. You've got to obtain and recruit and train the workers again, which means you cannot respond to those growing prices and demand in the short run. Now, on the right-hand side, you've got when supply might be price elastic. And what we've got here is that as price levels and demand grow, you can easily expand supply. So supply can respond really well to growing price levels in a marketplace. Now, this could be driven by having lots of spare capacity. So again, if you're that car factory and you can produce 1,000 cars per week, but you're only producing 200 cars per week, then ultimately you've got lots of resources not doing anything. So if demand's increasing, you can easily respond by producing extra cars. No problem at all. It could also be that you built up big stockpiles. So again, a car manufacturer might have a huge car park somewhere full of ready to be sold cars. So when demand increases and price levels grow, you can release that stockpile straight onto the market. You haven't got to worry about producing extra cars. They're already there, ready to roll when people want them. Next one, you expect the price increase to persist into the long run. So again, if you're the airline and you think there's going to be a growing demand for aeroplane flights and growing prices which will last for 10 years or even longer, then you will happily produce extra flights to meet that growing demand. You will recruit extra pilots, you will recruit extra workers, you will build more planes because you know there will be demand for them beyond the next 6-month period, let's say. Long term, well, in the longer term, firms have got more time to respond to growing price and demand. And again, they've got more time to obtain the resources, like the capital they need to meet growing demand. And that will also mean in the long run that new firms can enter the market, which will make supply more responsive to changes in prices. I often think about this stuff like the game Minecraft. If someone said to you, right, you're a business in Minecraft, and we want you to produce more or provide us with more ores from the ground, from the mines. Well, think about the things which would have an inelastic supply. In theory, if you were getting paid for every bit of, say, diamond that you were digging out of the ground, well, I would say that your supply of diamonds will be inelastic. If someone said to you, right, well, we'll give you extra money for every diamond that you mine, you become more incentivized to dig diamonds out of the ground. But because these things are quite rare and quite scarce and difficult to find and difficult to obtain, it means that your supply will be very inelastic. You find it difficult to respond to growing prices. But if someone said to you, right, go and get some coal, well, coal is in an abundant supply in these mines. So as price levels grow of coal, you become more willing and able to produce more coal, and you will find it really simple to meet that growing demand for coal. Right, just to end this, I want to give you a couple of numerical examples. So on the left-hand side, you've got a price inelastic supply. On the right-hand side, you've got a price elastic supply. Now, what I'm assuming is in the first diagram, that the market price has increased from £1.20 to £1.60, and that has led to an extension in supply from 200 to 220. Now, you've got here the workings out for how you would work out the price elasticity of supply. So we'd use the formula percentage change in supply divided by percentage change in price. And we can see that when supply grows from 200 to 220, we've got a 10% growth in supply. This is because the price has increased by 33.3%. So in the formula, if we were to put 10% divided by 33.3%, we're going to get a score of 0.3. Now, because the answer lies between 0 and +1, we've got a price inelastic supply. The growth in price has led to an extension in supply, but it's an insignificant increase in supply. Supplies struggle to respond to that growing price. It's an unresponsive change. The percent change in price exceeds that percentage change in supply. Now, the prices don't match the example I'm about to give, but think about the housing market. When house prices increase, it's very difficult for firms to produce more houses. Logic being, you need time to acquire the land to build the properties on. You need time to get the architect's plans drawn up. You also need to get planning permission, build the properties. Well, these things all take time, which means in the UK, the supply of new housing tends to be inelastic. It's difficult to respond to growing prices in that marketplace. The example on the right will show a very flat supply curve. We've got here a price elastic supply. Now, what I've gone for this time is a reduction in price from £1.20 to £1.05. Now, again, if I use the formula PES, percent change in supply divided by percentage change in price, I can see that the supply has fallen by 77.8%. And that has followed a 12.5% reduction in price. So if you divide two negative numbers together, again, you get a positive number, and we now get a PES of 6.2. So we've got a price elastic supply. This time supply has been very responsive to that change in price. Right, everyone, just to wrap up this video, you've got some questions that I want you to think about. And again, this isn't a case of sticking down your answers as quickly as possible. You've really got to understand this theory. So what I now want you to do, hit pause, write down these questions, put down your answers, and when you understand it, then you have reached the end of this video. Right, everyone, thank you very much.